Okay, so now that we've already discussed yung ating mga arc length, let's try solving naman yung surface with the numbers 6 to 10. Okay, so the first one for number 6, we have find the surface of revolution if number 1 is revolved about the y-axis. So this is your number 1, and the equation is y is equal to e raised to negative x minus ln of 2x squared from these 2 points. And let's revolve that about the y-axis. So here's the graph in Geogebra, and as you can notice, I've already included the domain, or not the domain, but the points that are necessary in this case. So we have a, b, that's 1 to 1, and this value, and then 5. So what we need to do here is to revolve this about the y-axis and determine what could be the possible surface area. So it will just look like this. So parang i-mirror lang natin siya somewhere here. Kasi about the y-axis to. Hindi mo siya mukhang mirror. Parang, wait, parang ganyan siya. Okay, and then you will form this kind of surface. So ganyan yung magiging itsura niya. So parang meron tayo ditong surface. Okay? Yan. So this surface, we will determine that area, surface area. Okay, so the equation for finding the surface area, let's go back to the problem. The equation for finding the surface area is simply equal to 2 pi, and then evaluated from a to b, and then of course the let's say r of x, multiply this by the arc length. So you could just use s and then the x. So our s, of course, is the equation of our arc length. And in this case, since it is revolved about the y-axis, we could see it from here that our r of x, so this is our r of x. R of x is the distance from the axis of revolution, which is the y-axis. This is your y-axis, and then this is your r of x. And knowing that our s here, so since we're using the dx, so our arc length is square root of 1 plus f prime of x squared. Okay, and then therefore your r of x is equal to x, because from the y-axis or the axis of revolution, we could always say that at any point here in the graph, the x value would just remain as x, because that's always the distance from the y-axis. Okay, so knowing these two equations, we can now plug in the values. So the surface area, 2 pi, evaluated from a to b, so that's 1 to 5, and then your r of x is x. You multiply this by 1 plus the derivative of your original function, so we have y prime that is equal to negative e raised to negative x minus this could be 1 over 2x squared times 4x, and then this gives you the value of minus 2 over x. Okay, so you could just write that, and then you square this, okay, and then the x. So therefore, this will give you the final answer for this problem. So pwede nyo siyang idirekta na sa calculator. So that is 95.913 square units. So the units is, or the unit is in square units kasi this is just the area. Although this is just a surface, it's still the area. Kaya square units yung ating maging unit for this problem. Okay, so I think we can now move forward for the next item. Okay, so now let's solve for number 7. And remember, since we do have 2 answers for number 2, we're expecting that we also have 2 answers for number 7. And let's try solving each of them. Now I have here the graph of the function, and I have already plotted all the points that we need. And for the first part, if we want to find the surface of revolution for a to b, or from b to a, so revolve about the x-axis, we could see that you just mirror this, and you need to find this surface area that will be formed. So that's how it goes for the first part of your arc length. Now for the second part, so if you try to mirror this from c to d, so this is what happens for this case. So just have to determine this surface area. Now, let's determine each of them. So we first need to determine this distance because sabi nga natin before, when we have the surface area, we need to always determine the distance from the axis of revolution going to the arc. Okay, so if it's the case, then this is always the value of y, and this y is always equal to your f of x, or the function itself. So therefore, if you want to use x as our integrating variable, so the surface area would be 2 pi integrated from a to, it should be a to b, but in this case, since the domain is, or the lower limit is at b, because we're using the x value, so yung mas maliit yung kukuha na natin. So it should be b to a, okay? So parang b to a yan. And then, ano ba yung ating y? So yung y natin is actually equal to f of x. So ano ba yung ating equation itself? So yung equation natin is 3 raised to x cubed minus 3x. So yung pinagkaiba niya kanina, di ba kanina x lang to sa previous example. But for this case, yung equation itself, kasi nga this is the value of y. So that is the case when your axis of revolution is on the x-axis or along the x-axis and not on the y-axis or parallel to y-axis. But then again, the formula for this case for the arc length is still the same. So 1 plus the derivative and then we square that derivative. So the derivative in this case is 3 raised to x times 3x squared plus x cubed times 3 raised to x ln of x and then minus 3. So I think hindi siya kasya dito, pero let's move it here na lang. So the surface area is equal to 2 pi. Now, from b to a, I've already stored the value from that certain equation. So e is negative 1.1415, and you can check that in these values, diba? So your f is actually 0.355. And of course, I'm storing this value, so I'm using the most accurate values as possible. So we have, again, the equation itself, that's 3 raised to x times x cubed minus 3x. Multiply this by the square root of 1 plus 3 raised to x, 3x squared plus x cubed times 3x ln of x and then minus 3 squared dx. Okay, so the surface area, upon computing, this shall give us the correct answer. Now, na-notice ko pala na ln of x pala yung ginawa ko dito. So, this should be ln 3. So, let's just rewrite this. Then, this one, ln of 3 as well. Okay. Yan. So, hopefully, we could arrive at the same result. So, don't forget to square this. Okay. And, kailangan nasa, nasa parentheses or parentheses para to make sure na i-integrate siya ng tama. Though ito, pwedeng hindi na kayo maglagay ng parentheses, pero suggested ko pa rin na maglagay para sure tayo na na-integrate talaga yung buong expression. Okay? And this gives you 27.10 0.05. Okay? So, this is square units. So, this is your first surface area using the limits b to a. Now, let's find the area using c to d. Surface area using c to d. So, in this case, that's the same problem. That's the same equation that we could use. But we have to remember that in this case, our limits will be changed. So, the limit that we'll be using is already stored it. So, that's 0.847 026 2464, and then this one, the x value for this, which is around 1 point something, so that's 1.206 938 538. Okay, and you press equals. So this should give you the value that is 25.1366 square units. Okay, so you might be thinking, why is it different in your handout? So, mali yun na sa handout. Okay. So ito yung two answers na tama kasi you have to make sure na we incorporate the value of your y in this case, which is actually the equation itself. So you have to change the one in your module with these answers. Okay, so pakibura na lang to. Now let us solve for number 9, I think, and we need to determine the area of revolution for number 4 that is revolved about x is equal to 5. So number 4 naman is, these are the equations, and here is your graph, as you can see, and this is your curve. So this is the axis of revolution. So if you want to have yung parang area niya, surface area, so mirror lang siya dyan, and then you could form something like this. So surface area ang hanapin natin in that case. Now, remember, we always use yung ating x kasi that is the easiest, parang most common way para ma-solve natin. But there are cases wherein when we try to integrate it with respect to dx or dy, sometimes we couldn't find the antiderivative because, or the definite integral, because it's impossible. Now, in this case, I'll try to show you two ways on how to solve for this, and just to look at the difference and what really happens when it is quite impossible for us to integrate in that certain expression. So the first thing that we always have to remember is our r of x is your distance from the axis of revolution going to your arc length. So if this whole thing here is 5 units from the y-axis, so therefore the distance can be simplified here as 5 minus x. Okay, so if that is the case, then this is your r of x. The surface area could be given. So we also have to determine pala first your limits of integration. So in this case, ito naman is 3, so walang tayong problema. But what is the y coordinate? So that's 1. So therefore this point is 1, 3. And then how about this one? So you could always try to solve that by 2 points, and I mean 2 equations unknowns, and then you could have here equation 2 and then this y. So from that we could determine the value. So we have 1 minus square root of 3 minus x, that is equal to your 2x, and then 2x minus 5. Okay, so therefore this x gives us a value of 2.75. Okay, so therefore if it is 2.75, then your y would be equal to 1 minus square root of 0.25, which gives us the value of 1/2. So therefore this point here is 1/2, not really 1/2, but 2.75. So that's 2.75 and then 0.5. Okay, now we already have the values of our points, so let's determine the surface area. So that's 2 pi, and then integrated from, so we're using the we used x or dx muna. So with this, that is simply from 2.75 going to 1 to positive, I think baliktad yung sulat ko dito, that should be 3, 1. Okay, so that is 3, and then what is the distance rx? So that's 5 minus x, and then what is your equation of the arc length? So that's 1 plus, so what is the derivative of this y? So that's y prime is equal to negative 1/2 3 minus x raised to negative 1/2 times negative 1, which simplifies further into positive 1/2 3 minus x raised to negative 1/2. So that is 1/2 times 3 minus x raised to negative 1/2, and then we square this and then the x. So now I will try to solve for this using your calculator, and let's see what happens. So as you can see it from here, the answer here would be math error. So it could probably be that the inside expression, it would be undefined, or it could be negative somewhere here, pero that's it. We couldn't use this equation in order to determine yung ating answer for this case. So we have to perform the other way, which is using our dy. So in dy, we just have to transform this in terms of dy. So that's 2 pi, and then ano ba yung corresponding nito sa y? So that's 0.5, and then this is 1. So knowing this 5 minus x, so 5 will still be the same, pero ano ba yung x dito? So, di ba, if you want to use x here, that's just the distance from the y-axis going to this arc. And that is always, that x is represented by the x expression in your original equation. So, therefore, you could redefine this by making this x is equal to f of y. So in that case, we have y is equal to 1 minus square root of 3 minus x. We transpose this y minus 1 and then square this, so we have 3 minus x. And therefore, your x is equal to y, or 3 minus y minus 1 squared. So from this, we could have 5 minus 3 minus y, 5 minus 3 minus y minus 1 squared, okay? And then we multiply this by the square root of 1 plus, so what is your equation in terms of x? So that is the derivative of this x prime is equal to negative 2 and then y minus 1. So therefore, that is plus negative 2 times y minus 1 quantity squared dy. So as you can notice, yung integrand natin dito, mas ano siya, mas parang mas may sagot siya kasi we don't have any value dito na meron na expression, then we raise it to negative 1. So literally kasi ano nangyari dito, napapunta siya sa ilalim because of the negative exponent. But in this case, since positive na exponent, so it's a lot easier for us to determine yung kanyang definite integral kasi positive na yung exponent niya. No? So those are the cases wherein, of course, there will always be two ways that we can solve for this. Kahit yung kanina natin mga sinosolve, pwede ang dx, pwede ang dy. It's just that I'm using dx kasi yun yung mas madali. Kasi yung expression natin is in terms of, di ba, y is equal to f of x. It's a lot difficult for us to transform that in terms of x equal to f of y. But if it's possible, there are always two. There are always two talaga na solutions. But yung mahirap lang doon is pag-change ng equation. But in this case kasi, yung equation natin is very easy to transform into its corresponding f of y or f of x. So we could perform two solutions here. Now, evaluating this, going back, so if you want to evaluate this, just use your calculator again. So from this, you could press equals and you will be able to obtain the correct answer. So that's 7.5418 square units. Okay, so from this, we could determine yung ating sagot, which is yan, 7.5418 square units. Now, let's go back to this and then let's remove the r of x expression and then let's just check if we will be able to determine the arc length. So, tatanggalin lang naman natin to and then this should give us the answer 5.7389, which is actually the answer here. This one, 0.5739. And then yung ating surface area is 7.5418 in this number 9. Okay, so hopefully nagets nyo yung ating discussion. So those are our methods in solving for the area, surface area and arc length. And remember, there are only two ways we can solve for this. It's either you use the dx, yun nga, yung sa dx natin and then yung dy or the g of y function. But kapag ginamit niyo yung x, so that should always give the same result for your y. So, pinakamadaling indication kung anong gagamitin mo is by looking at the equation itself. So, kung halimbawa, naka-y in terms of f of x na siya, so gamitin mo na ngayon yung f of x. Kapag naman it is impossible for the calculator to integrate kasi there are cases wherein nagne-negative yung ating exponent, which is quite impossible for us to integrate knowing na that is inside the radical sign. So, what we have to do there is to transform the equation or redefine that in terms of f of y or g of y. So this equation g of y, you'll be transforming the limits of integration as well as the differentiating or integrating variable. And after that, you should get the correct answer. And sabi ko nga, generally there are two ways that we can solve for it. Pero sometimes it is quite impossible for the other one, so we shift to the other one. But the best option here is to always select the kind of integrand or the function that is readily integrable. So yun yung ating laging goal dito. And I think you could perform number 8 or solve for number 8 and number 10, hopefully. So ito naman number 10, sabi lang dito is that meron tayong, same lang din nung kanina kung sinolve the number 5. But in this case kasi, meron tayong axis of revolution, and that's the x-axis, parallel to the directrix. So, alam naman natin na, 'di ba, pag meron tayong parabola that opens upward and this is your x-axis, so technically the directrix is the distance from your focus going to this certain yun nga yung parang locus of a point. So in that way, the directrix is just equidistant from the center to the focus distance or the focal distance. So that's how you will solve for this number 10. Okay? So with that, that ends your application of integration. I think that's the first one. Okay, so that's just the first application of integration. And for the second wave of your applications of integration, we will be discussing work, which is very easy actually. Work, and then ano pa ba yun? Add work, and then the moment centers of mass and centroids, and finally we have the fluid pressure and fluid force for the application of integration 2. And then that's it for 2, and then we move forward to application number 3. So hopefully ay matapos natin siya within this week. Pero kung hindi, we will conduct online class for this.